Welcome to the summary page for the Trentenberg system of speed multiplication. I'm going to go and give you seconds to write this down and just kind of take an overlook of it. What I did is I wrote the rules for all the single digits down, so you can go ahead and follow along, and whenever you're using a single digit, if you kind of forget a process, you can always revert back to this video and these step by step. So I'm going to back out of the way here, give you some time to kind of pause and be able to write anything down that you need. Okay, like I said, this is a summary video. I do have step-by-step videos on how to do all these numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say out loud each one of these rules, and then I'm just going to go through a quick little summary of the Trentenberg system. So the first one is if we're going to be multiplying by 11, remember what we're going to want to do is just simply add the neighbor. The next thing, if we want to multiply by 12, we want to double the number and then add the neighbor. For multiplying by 6, we want to add 5 to the number. If the number is odd, we want to add 5 to the number if it is odd, and then add half of the neighbor. For number 7, we want to double the number and add 5 if the number is odd. Then we want to add half the neighbor. For 5, we want to use half the neighbor plus 5 if the number is odd. For 9, what we're going to do is the first digit. Remember 9, let's say 9, 8, 4, and 3 have special ones. So the first digit, we're going to subtract from 10. The middle digits, we're going to subtract from 9 and then add the neighbor. And for our last digit of the multiplicand, we're going to reduce the left-hand digit by 1. And you can see more in that video. I'll kind of explain more in detail how that works. For 8, for the first digit, we're going to subtract from 10 and double. For the middle digits, we're going to subtract from 9 and add the neighbor. For the left-hand answer, we're going to reduce the left-hand digit by 2. For 4, we want to subtract from 10, add 5 if odd. For the middle digits, we want to subtract from 9, add half the neighbor, plus 5 if it's odd. And for the left-hand digit, we want to take the left-hand digit and reduce it by 1. For 3, for the first number, we want to subtract from 10, double, add 5 if odd. For the middle digits, we want to subtract from 9, double, add 5 if odd, and add half of the neighbor. And for the leftmost digit, we want to take left-hand digit and reduce by 2. When multiplying by 2, we want to double each digit without using the neighbor. So, alright, so those are kind of all the rules, right, written down. And you guys can, like I said, go back to these rules, pick some different numbers, and just get a lot of practice with that. The important thing about the Trentenberg system, guys, is the more and more you practice, the faster and the easier you're not going to have to revert back to these rules. It's just like the times tables. When we practice the timetables and you follow the system, pretty soon it becomes innate and you don't have to keep on thinking back, what was those rules and everything you had to do. So let's again go back and talk about the Trentenberg system and how we set it up. Now remember, the Trentenberg system was developed so a lot of times we can get out of the system of having to remember our times tables. When we multiply numbers, we always had one number and then we took it on top of each other and we'd multiply across and we relied on us memorizing our times tables. Well, a lot of times that can be redundant if we don't remember our times tables. So what we did is we set up a whole bunch of rules, and to multiply by our single digits, what we do is we put our numbers right next to each other. Then the next thing that we do is we make sure we put a 0 in front and we draw a line under it. The reason why we draw the line is because we want a way to distinguish our answer from the two numbers we're multiplying. The reason why we put a 0 in front is because a lot of these rules you've noticed the term neighbor. And what the neighbor means is the number directly to the right of the number you're trying to get. So if I say 8, the neighbor of 8 is 6. The neighbor of 0 is 1. And that's the reason why we put the 0 there. So therefore we can use the first number as a neighbor. However, 6 does not have a neighbor. There is no number that is to the right of 6. A couple other things. Whenever we figure out by using our rule and we get a number that's larger than 10, similar to multiplying and adding 4, we have to carry that 1. So what we do in our system is we put a little dot up there. Now, and if you guys can look at, by multiplying 11, you can see the rule is to add the neighbor. Well, 8, I can't add the neighbor, so I just dropped it down. But then here I have 8. I add another 8, which is going to give me 16. Rather than writing 16, what I did is I put a 6 and then I put a little dot there. In the multiplying by 12, 388 by 12, what we notice is it says double the number and then add the neighbor. Well, so here we have 8. I'm going to double that, and which is going to give me 16. So therefore, I'm going to have to carry 1. Well, here, what you'll notice is I have 8, right? So when I double 8, that's going to give me 16. Now I need to add half of my neighbor, which is going to give me 4. So 16, half of my neighbor, I'm sorry, double is going to be 16. Double the number, and, I'm sorry, half of 16. Add my neighbor, which will be 24. For some reason, I'm thinking half the neighbor. So I have double 8, which is 16. Add my neighbor, which is going to give me 24. Then you see I have to add my carry 1, so that's going to give me 25. So now I have to carry over 2 tens digits, which I'm going to represent by these little dots. So then when I do 3, double, which is 6, plus add 8, which is 14, 15, and 16. And like I said, I didn't wholly show this, but you can see how I'm going to get that. You carry this 1 over there and write in. A couple things that I want to remind you of are last little steps to remember when you're doing the Trappenberg system. We want to always add our carries first. And what do I mean by that? Well, when we're going to start talking about this out loud, you want to use your carried 1 first. If you think to the end, which a lot of us do, we like to do our mathematics and then add the carried 1s at the end. Well, if you do that, you're bound to forget about the carried 1s, all right? So make sure you do that first to avoid forgetting it. The next thing is add the 5s next, second. So if you have to, if you know your numbers if you know your numbers odd and you have to add 5, automatically do it. If you have 3 and you have to add 5, make it 8. And just automatically you should be looking at that number and saying, that's 8, okay? That's the next thing. Then the other thing is, you guys, when you're looking at your numbers, you have to be thinking of them. If they're doubled or half, you have to make sure you see that number and say automatically what it is in your head. So if I'm going to talk about, let's say I have to double my number. When I look at 4, 7, 5, and 1, I automatically got to look at this and say 8, 4, 0, and 2. Right? Now here, I know it's going to be 4 carry 1, and this is going to be 0 carry 1, but you have to be able to that quickly automatically know what you're going to write down there. If I was going to say half, then it'd have to be as quickly as 2, 3, 2, and 0. And that's how you're going to get through that speed rapid, is by quickly being able to identify the number and what your rule is. The last thing I want to look at is how we're going to kind of work through this. Now, in all my videos, I've gone very, very slow in how I describe what I'm doing. I like to say, I take the first number, I double it, add my previous number. Well, what I want to get to is looking into kind of saying it very quickly. If I look at here, I know I have to carry this 1. So I told you guys what I want to do is by adding by 7, let's look at the rule. I need to double the number and add 5, right? Well, automatically, if I know I have to carry a 1, right, I'm just going to automatically say 1. Now, the one thing you need to know is 5, if it was odd, I have to add 5. So therefore, when I look at 5, I should automatically think 15. So therefore, when I say 1, when I add 15, that's going to automatically add 1 to 15, which gives me 16. Then I have to add half of my neighbor. So half of 3 is going to be 1. So I shouldn't be saying like 3 divided by 2 is 1. You should just automatically look at 3 and say 1. Then 17. No, that should be 7. 35. So if I have 17, so therefore you carry the 1, and that would be your 0. All right, guys. So that is pretty much the summary of everything that we want to do in the Trappenberg system. So I hope you guys learned a lot from this. Just remember, if you kind of follow these rules step by step, it'll really help you out. And really, the main important thing is just practicing. Practice these rules and practice how to say each one of these rules out loud. All right. Thank you.